The year was 2247, and humanity had done something amazing. They had left Earth and spread across the stars. They had built cities on distant planets, created stations that floated around giant gas planets, and invented ships that could travel faster than light. For 200 years, humans had explored the galaxy, always wondering if they were alone. They found empty worlds, dead civilizations, and ancient ruins, but never another living species. That changed on a quiet Tuesday morning. Admiral Grace was 53 years old. She had served in the Earth Defense Force for 30 years, rising through the ranks through hard work and sharp thinking. She had gray hair cut short in a military style, and her eyes were the color of steel. She stood on the command deck of Station Prime, the largest military base orbiting Earth, drinking her morning coffee and reviewing patrol reports. It was boring work. Nothing ever happened. The biggest threat to Earth was usually asteroid debris or the occasional pirate ship stealing cargo. Grace sometimes wondered why they even needed such a large defense force. She got her answer at exactly 9:47 a.m. "Admiral, we have contacts appearing on long-range sensors," Lieutenant Park said. He was young, barely 25, with nervous energy that made him tap his fingers on his console when he was worried. Right now, his fingers were tapping very fast. Grace walked over to his station. "How many contacts?" His face went pale. "Ma'am, the computer is still counting. It's in the thousands." Grace felt her stomach drop, but she kept her face calm. A good commander never showed fear in front of her crew. "Put it on the main screen." At the front of the bridge flickered to life. Grace had seen many things in her career, but nothing like this. Ships were appearing from fold space, the dimension that allowed faster-than-light travel. They were appearing in perfect rows, like soldiers standing at attention. Each ship was dark purple, shaped like a curved blade, and covered in strange markings that glowed with inner light. "Final count, Admiral," said, his voice barely a whisper. 12,000 ships." The bridge crew fell silent. 12,000 warships. Earth's entire fleet numbered less than 300. They were outnumbered 40-1. Commander Daniel Wright, Grace's second in command, moved to stand beside her. He was a tall man with dark skin and calm eyes that had seen many battles. "Orders, Admiral." Before Grace could answer, spoke again. "We're receiving a transmission from the lead ship. They're using a universal mathematical language. The computer is translating now." The changed. Instead of the fleet, they now saw a creature that made several crew members gasp in horror. It looked like a giant insect, standing upright like a human but with 6 limbs. Its body was covered in hard shell that gleamed purple under bright lights. Its head had 2 large compound eyes that seemed to look in every direction at once, and its mouth was filled with sharp mandibles that clicked together as it spoke. "Humans of Earth," the translation came through, the computer giving the creature a deep, commanding voice. "I am High Commander of the Dominion of. For 3,000 years, our empire has ruled this region of space. We have conquered 500 worlds and brought order to chaos. Your recent expansion into the outer reach has not gone unnoticed." His mandibles clicked faster, a sound that the computer interpreted as anger. "You have built colonies in territory that belongs to the Dominion. You have taken resources that are ours by right of conquest. This is unacceptable. You will surrender unconditionally within 48 hours. Your military vessels will be handed over for dismantling. Your colonies will be evacuated. Your species will accept its place as servants of the Dominion." The creature leaned closer to its camera, its compound eyes reflecting hundreds of tiny images. "If you refuse, we will destroy every city will burn, every human will die. There will be nothing left but ash and memory. You have 48 hours. Choose wisely." The transmission ended, and the return to showing the massive alien fleet surrounding Earth like a net around a fish. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Grace could see the fear on her crew's faces. Some looked ready to cry, others looked ready to run. A few looked ready to fight, even though they knew it was hopeless. Grace took a deep breath. She thought about her daughter, living in New Chicago on Mars. She thought about her parents, retired in Florida, probably watching the morning news without any idea that alien warships hung in the sky above them. She thought about every human on every world, all 7 billion on Earth and another 3 billion scattered across the colonies. They were all counting on her. "Lieutenant Park," she said, her voice steady and strong, "open a channel to Earth Defense Command. Priority 1. Get me Secretary General and every military commander on the planet. We're having a meeting in 1 hour." Nodded and began working his console. "Commander Wright, I want a full analysis of that fleet. Every ship, every weapon, every formation detail. I want to know what they eat for breakfast." Daniel nodded and moved to coordinate with the tactical team. "And someone get Doctor on the line. Tell her that project just became our top priority." A young ensign looked confused. "Sir, what's project?" Grace allowed herself a small smile. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that their enemy did not. "Project is the reason we're going to win." The ensign blinked. "Win? Admiral, they have 12,000 ships. We have less than 300. How can we possibly win?" Grace looked at the alien fleet on the 12,000 ships, arranged in perfect formation, surrounding Earth like predators around prey. The thought they had already won. They thought humans would fall to their knees and beg for mercy. They were wrong. "Son," Grace said, "humanity has been fighting wars since we lived in caves and hit each other with rocks. We have survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and 2 world wars. We clawed our way from mud to stars through pure stubborn refusal to give up. These aliens think they know what war is. They think their numbers make them strong, but they have never fought humans before." She turned to face her entire crew, seeing the fear slowly being replaced by something else. Hope, determination, pride. "They want us to surrender. They expect us to surrender. Every species they have conquered has surrendered when faced with overwhelming force. But we are not every species. We are human, and humans do not surrender." Grace straightened her uniform and headed for the door. "Now, let's go show these bugs what happens when you threaten Earth." The emergency meeting took place in the war room, a massive underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. It had been built 300 years ago, during a time when humans feared nuclear war with each other. Now it served a different purpose. Now it was where humanity would decide its fate. Secretary General sat at the head of a long table. She was 60 years old, with silver hair and dark eyes that had seen too many crises. She had been elected to lead the United Earth Council 5 years ago, during a time of peace and prosperity. She never expected to face anything like this. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth. General Cole commanded the ground forces. Admiral Grace commanded the space fleet. Doctor led the Advanced Projects Division, the most secret research group in human history. Representatives from every nation on Earth filled the remaining seats, their faces showing various degrees of fear and anger. "Let us be clear about our situation," General Cole began. He was a large man with a shaved head and a voice like thunder. "The enemy fleet consists of 12,000 vessels. Our analysis shows they have 3 classes of ships: small fighters, medium cruisers, and large dreadnoughts. Their weapons appear to be energy-based, similar to our plasma cannons but more powerful. Their shields can stop most of our conventional weapons." He paused, looking around the table. "Our fleet consists of 287 combat-ready vessels. We have 42 orbital defense platforms and ground-based missile systems on every continent. If we fight a traditional battle, we will lose. It is that simple. Mathematics does not lie." The room fell into grim silence. The numbers were clear. Fighting meant death. A representative from the Asian coalition spoke up. "Then perhaps we should consider their offer. Surrender is not ideal, but survival is better than extinction. Several people nodded in agreement. Fear was spreading through the room like a disease. Admiral stood up. With respect, that is not an option. Why not? The representative demanded. Pride is not worth the lives of billions. This is not about pride, Grace replied. Doctor, please explain what we know about the Dominion. Rose from her seat. She was a small woman with gray-streaked hair and glasses that she constantly pushed up her nose. She looked like a grandmother, not a scientist who had spent her life building weapons. But looks could be deceiving. We have been monitoring alien signals for over a century, began. We knew they existed. We knew they were dangerous. What we did not know was how close they were, or that they would find us so soon. She pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the table, showing a map of the galaxy. The Dominion controls over 200 star systems. They have conquered 17 intelligent species. None of those species exist anymore. The room went cold. The do not take slaves continued. They do not want servants. When they say we will accept our place, they mean we will be used for labor until we are no longer useful, and then we will be eliminated. Every species that has surrendered to them has been extinct within 3 generations. Surrender is not survival. Surrender is slow death. Secretary General leaned forward. You are certain of this? Completely certain. We have intercepted their communications. We have studied their history. They believe that only one species can rule the galaxy, and that species is them. Everyone else is either a tool or an obstacle. The representative from the Asian coalition sat back in his chair, his face pale. Then we have no choice. No, Admiral agreed. We have no choice but to fight. The question is how. General Cole shook his head. I told you, Admiral, the mathematics do not work. We cannot win a straight fight. Grace smiled. Then we will not fight a straight fight. Doctor, tell them about Project. His eyes lit up with something that looked almost like joy. For 50 years, the Advanced Projects Division has been preparing for this day. We always knew that eventually we would meet a hostile alien species. We knew that they would probably be stronger than us, so we prepared. She changed the holographic display. Instead of a galaxy map, it now showed blueprints of ships, weapons, and technologies that most people in the room had never seen. Project is our answer to superior numbers. It has 3 parts. She pointed to the first blueprint. Part 1 is our stealth technology. We have developed ships that are completely invisible to any known sensor system. They absorb all radiation, emit no heat, and are coated in materials that bend light around them. 20 of these ships are currently drifting toward the fleet. The enemy has no idea they exist. The military commanders leaned forward with interest. Part 2 is our weapon systems. Conventional weapons will not penetrate shields, but gravitational torpedoes will. These weapons create tiny black holes that last for exactly 3 seconds, long enough to crush anything within 100 meters into a ball the size of a marble. The enemy has no defense against them because they have never encountered anything like them. Even Secretary General looked impressed. Part 3 is the most important. Change the display again, showing a massive construction project hidden in the asteroid belt. For 50 years, we have been building in secret, automated factories, hidden in asteroids and moons throughout the solar system. They have been producing ships, weapons, and supplies without any human workers, completely hidden from any outside observation. She paused for effect. They think we have 300 ships. We actually have over 3,000. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. 3,000 ships, 10 times what anyone thought. It was still not enough to match 12,000, but it changed everything. Admiral stood again. The enemy expects us to surrender. Every species they have conquered surrendered when faced with overwhelming force. They do not know how to fight an enemy that fights back. Their entire military structure is designed for conquest, not combat. She pointed to the holographic display of the fleet. Look at their formation. Every ship is perfectly spaced. Every movement is coordinated through their flagship. They have one brain controlling 12,000 bodies. That is their strength, but it is also their weakness. If we can create chaos, if we can disrupt their command structure, their perfect formation becomes a confused mess. General Cole was nodding slowly, his tactical mind already seeing the possibilities. The plan is called Operation Counting Stars, Grace continued. We let them think they have won. We let them come closer, confident in their superiority. Then we hit them with everything we have all at once from directions they never expected. By the time they realize what is happening, half their fleet will be burning. Secretary General looked around the table. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. Hope, the smallest flame of hope, but it was enough. "What do you need from us?" she asked. Grace smiled. "Just your permission to save the world." The vote was unanimous. High Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the blue and green planet called Earth slowly rotate beneath him. It was a beautiful world, he admitted. The humans had been lucky to evolve on such a paradise. Too bad they would not be enjoying it much longer. 47 hours had passed since he delivered his ultimatum. 1 hour remained. Had conquered 17 worlds, and every single one had surrendered before the deadline. Some had tried to negotiate. Some had begged for mercy. A few had even tried to bribe him with treasures and resources. But in the end, they all surrendered. It was the logical thing to do when faced with overwhelming force. His second-in-command, Subcommander Al, approached with a tablet displaying sensor data. "High Commander, we have detected no significant movement from the human fleet. Their ships remain in defensive positions around their space stations. They appear to be waiting." Clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. "Of course they are waiting. They are hoping we will show mercy. They are hoping that if they do not resist, we will spare some of them." He made a sound that was the equivalent of laughter. "They do not understand. Mercy is weakness. Weakness must be eliminated." "The deadline approaches," Al noted. "Should we prepare for bombardment?" "Not yet. The humans will surrender. They always do. Every species surrenders when they see the truth of their situation. It is the natural order of things. The strong rule, the weak serve, and those who cannot serve are destroyed." The communications console beeped. A human transmission was coming through. "Put it on screen," commanded. Admiral Grace appeared on the. She was standing on what appeared to be a military command center, surrounded by officers and holographic displays. Her face showed no fear. Her eyes showed no desperation. She looked, thought with annoyance, almost bored. "High Commander," she said, her voice calm and steady, "we have considered your offer." "And your answer?" asked, already knowing what she would say. "Come and take it." The transmission ended. Stared at the blank screen for several seconds, his compound eyes blinking in confusion. That was not possible. No species refused. No species was that foolish. "High Commander," Al asked uncertainly. His confusion turned to rage. His mandibles clicked together so hard that they made a cracking sound. "They dare. These primitive mammals dare to defy the Dominion." "Perhaps it is a bluff," Al suggested. "Perhaps they hope we will negotiate." "There will be no negotiation," roared. "All ships advance to bombardment range. We will burn their cities one by one until they beg for the mercy they have rejected. Formation attack, standard pattern." Across the void of space, 12,000 warships began to move. They maintained their perfect formation, thousands of ships moving as one, like a great purple wave rolling toward Earth. It was beautiful and terrible, the might of the Dominion displayed for all to see. Watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The human fleet was not moving. They were holding position around their stations, probably frozen with fear. In minutes, his ships would be in range and the bombardment would begin. He would start with their coastal cities, watching the oceans boil and the land burn. Then he would move inland, systematically destroying everything humans had built. The first ship exploded without warning. Spun toward his tactical officer. "Report what happened." "Unknown, High Commander. The cruiser Relentless Victory simply detonated. We are detecting no enemy fire." Another explosion. Then another. On the tactical display, ships were dying, their icons winking out one by one. "There," Al shouted, pointing at a sensor reading. "A ship just appeared inside our formation. It is firing on our vessels." Stared at the display in disbelief. A human ship had somehow penetrated their formation without being detected. And now more were appearing, small vessels that seemed to materialize from empty space, firing weapons that the sensors could not understand. Commander Samuel Hayes sat in the captain's chair of the stealth corvette Phantom, watching chaos spread through the enemy fleet. His ship was tiny compared to the cruisers, barely 50 meters long with a crew of only 20. But size did not matter when your enemy could not see you coming. "All stealth units, this is Phantom," he said into his communicator. "Execute attack pattern Omega. Priority targets are command cruisers and communication relays. Hit them hard and disappear before they can respond." Around him, 19 other stealth corvettes just long enough to fire their gravitational torpedoes, then vanished back into invisibility. Each torpedo found its target, creating a brief flash of impossible gravity that crushed warships like aluminum cans under a boot. Samuel watched a dreadnought try to turn toward his position. It was massive, over 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, but it was slow and it could not see him. "Target that dreadnought," he ordered, "full spread." The Phantom fired 6 gravitational torpedoes in rapid succession. The dreadnought's shields flickered and died as the first torpedo hit. The second through 6th hit the hull directly, crushing the massive ship from 6 different points. For a moment, the dreadnought looked like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. Then it collapsed into itself, all 2 kilometers of alien warship compressed into a ball of metal the size of a basketball. "Direct hit," his weapons officer reported. "Target destroyed." Samuel allowed himself a small smile. "Move to secondary targets, keep them confused." Across the fleet, confusion was spreading. Ships that had maintained perfect formation for centuries were now breaking apart, trying to find enemies they could not see. Captains were screaming for orders, but the communication relays were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. Centralized command structure, which had been so efficient during conquest operations, was now a fatal weakness. Every decision had to go through him, and he could not process information fast enough. "High Commander," Al shouted, "we have lost 200 ships. Our formation is breaking apart." Tried to think, but everything was happening too fast. This was not how battles were supposed to work. Enemies were supposed to line up and fight. Enemies were supposed to die when they were outnumbered. These humans were fighting like shadows, striking from nowhere and vanishing before his ships could respond. "All ships break formation," he finally ordered. "Independent targeting, find those human vessels and destroy them." It was exactly what Admiral had been waiting for. On Station Prime, Grace watched the fleet dissolve into chaos. The perfect formation that had looked so impressive was now a scattered mess. Thousands of ships moving in different directions, getting in each other's way, sometimes even firing on each other in their confusion. "Phase 1 complete," she announced. "The enemy formation is broken. Commander Hayes, pull your stealth units back to safe distance." "Acknowledged, Admiral," Samuel's voice came through the communicator. "We're withdrawing now. Good hunting." Grace turned to Lieutenant Park. "Signal the main fleet. Tell Captain Amy that it's time to show the what humanity is really made of." Grinned as he opened the channel. "Yes, ma'am, with pleasure." Behind Earth's moon, hidden from sensors by 200,000 miles of rock, 3,000 human warships powered up their engines. At the head of the fleet was the dreadnought Unconquered, the largest and most powerful ship humanity had ever built. And on her bridge, Captain Amy was ready for war. Captain Amy had dreamed of this moment since she was a little girl. She had grown up on stories of human bravery, of soldiers and sailors who fought against impossible odds and somehow won. Her grandfather had been a fighter pilot. Her mother had been a Marine. Fighting was in her blood, passed down through generations like a sacred inheritance. Now she stood on the bridge of the most powerful warship in human history, about to lead the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled into battle against an alien empire that had never known defeat. She was 35 years old, with black hair cut short for practical reasons and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Her uniform was perfectly pressed, her boots perfectly shined. She believed that a captain should look like a captain, even in the middle of a war. "All ships report ready, Captain," her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Carlos, announced. He was a calm man who never seemed to get excited about anything, which made him perfect for his job. 3,200 vessels, fully armed and waiting for your order. Amy looked at the tactical display. The fleet was in complete disarray, scattered across millions of kilometers of space, still trying to find the stealth corvettes that had caused so much damage. They had no idea that a much larger threat was about to emerge. "Open a channel to all ships," Amy commanded. "Channel open, Captain." Amy took a breath. She had prepared a speech, something inspiring to motivate her crews before battle. But looking at the display, seeing the enemy that had threatened to destroy Earth, she decided to keep it simple. "This is Captain to all vessels. Today we fight for Earth. Today we fight for every human being on every world. The enemy thought we would surrender. They were wrong. Show them why." She turned to her weapons officer. "All batteries, prepare to fire on my command." "Batteries ready, Captain." "Helm, take us around the moon. Maximum speed." The Unconquered's engines flared to life, producing enough thrust to move a small asteroid. Behind her, 3,000 ships followed, emerging from the moon's shadow like an avalanche of steel and fire. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, High Commander was trying to restore order to his fleet when his censor officer screamed. "High Commander, new contacts emerging from behind the planetary satellite, thousands of them." Spun toward the tactical display and felt his heart stop. The humans were not supposed to have thousands of ships. Intelligence had said they had barely 300, but the display did not lie. Thousands of human warships were pouring around the moon, led by a vessel so large that it dwarfed even his own flagship. "That is impossible," he whispered. "Where did they come from?" "Unknown, High Commander. Our intelligence detected no construction facilities capable of building such a fleet." His mind raced. Everything he knew about the humans was wrong. They were not a primitive species struggling to reach the stars. They were a hidden power, a sleeping giant that he had foolishly awakened. "All ships reform formation," he ordered. "Concentrate fire on that lead vessel." But his ships were scattered across space, still confused from the stealth attack. Reforming would take precious minutes that they did not have. The Unconquered opened fire. Amy watched with satisfaction as plasma lances reached across space, each beam carrying enough energy to vaporize a city. The first shot struck a cluster of cruisers that were trying to form a defensive line. Their shields held for approximately 2 seconds before collapsing. The ships behind them simply ceased to exist. "Batteries target the dreadnoughts," Amy ordered. "Gravitational torpedoes clear us a path." The Unconquered was not just large. It was a mobile fortress, carrying enough weapons to fight a small war by itself. Fired projectiles at nearly the speed of light, punching through armor like needles through paper. Gravitational torpedoes created pockets of crushing gravity that swallowed enemy ships whole. And the quantum disruption beams, humanity's and most terrible weapon, simply erased matter from existence, leaving nothing behind but empty space. Around the Unconquered, the rest of the human fleet engaged with equal fury. Destroyers swarmed around enemy cruisers, overwhelming their point defenses with sheer numbers. Cruisers dueled with their counterparts, human aggression and adaptability proving more than a match for alien technology. Carriers launched fighters by the hundreds, filling space with small, fast ships that darted through the chaos like angry wasps. They fought back. They were not cowards and their weapons were powerful. Human ships began to die, destroyed by plasma beams and missile swarms. The cruiser Defiant was cut in half by concentrated fire from 3 enemy dreadnoughts. The destroyer pack led by Commander Hayes lost 4 ships in a brutal close-range battle. Everywhere Amy looked, human vessels were burning. But for every human ship that died, 10 ships fell. The aliens were fighting individually, without coordination, each captain making their own decisions. The humans fought as one, their movements coordinated by tactical AIs that processed information faster than any biological mind could follow. "Captain, the enemy flagship is attempting to withdraw," Carlos reported. "It appears High Commander is trying to escape." Amy's eyes narrowed. "No, he does not get to leave. All forward batteries target the Eternal Dominion. I want that ship turned into scrap." The Unconquered turned toward the flagship like a predator focusing on wounded prey. The ship was large and powerful, but it was alone. Its escorts had been destroyed or scattered. Its shields were weakened from multiple hits. It was vulnerable. On the Eternal Dominion, watched the human dreadnought approach and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. True, deep, primal fear. "All power to shields," he ordered. "Return fire everything we have." The Eternal Dominion unleashed everything it had. Plasma beams and missiles and energy pulses all focused on the approaching human ship. The Unconquered shields flickered and flared, absorbing punishment that would have destroyed any other vessel. But it kept coming. "Fire quantum disruption beams," Amy commanded. "End this." The Unconquered's most powerful weapons activated. Beams of strange energy, looking almost like frozen lightning, reached out and touched the Eternal Dominion. Where they touched, matter simply vanished. Not destroyed, not burned, just gone. Holes appeared in the flagship, growing larger with each passing second. Had just enough time to realize that his entire understanding of warfare had been wrong. They believed that numbers and discipline guaranteed victory. The humans believed in adaptation, innovation, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The humans were right. The Eternal Dominion collapsed in on itself, its structural integrity completely compromised by the quantum disruption beams. For a moment, it looked like a dying star, bright and terrible. Then it was gone, and High Commander with it. Amy watched the enemy flagship die and felt no joy. War was not something to celebrate, but it was sometimes necessary, and when it was necessary, it had to be fought with everything you had. "The enemy flagship is destroyed," Carlos announced. "Fleet is in full retreat. Approximately 8,000 ships destroyed, 2,000 surrendered, 2,000 fleeing toward the system edge." Amy nodded. "Let the runners go. They will carry word back to the Dominion about what happened here today. As for the surrendered ships, secure them. We have questions that need answers." She turned to look at Earth, blue and green and beautiful, hanging in the void of space. Untouched, unburned, safe. "Signal Admiral," she said. "Tell her the battle is over. Earth is secure." For now, at least. But Amy knew this was only the beginning. The Battle of Earth was over, but the war had just begun. 1 week after the battle, Admiral Gray stood before the United Earth Council once more. The mood in the chamber was different now. The fear that had filled the room during their first meeting was gone, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. Confidence. Perhaps too much confidence. "Our losses were significant," Grace reported, her voice steady and professional. 412 ships destroyed, 8,000 crew members killed, 17 orbital platforms damaged beyond repair. but we achieved our objective. The invasion force has been eliminated." Cheers erupted from some of the delegates. Secretary General allowed them a moment of celebration before raising her hand for silence. "What happens now, Admiral?" she asked. "The will not accept this defeat. You said yourself that they control over 200 star systems. They will return with a larger fleet." "Yes, they will," Grace agreed. "Our intelligence suggests they can mobilize another fleet within 18 months. It will be larger than the first, probably 3 or 4 times the size. They will not underestimate us again." The cheering stopped. The math was simple and terrifying. If they returned with 40,000 ships, even humanity's secret fleet would not be enough. General Cole stood. "Then we need to build more ships. We need to expand our production facilities, train more crews, develop new weapons. We have 18 months to prepare." "That is not enough time," Grace said quietly. The room fell silent. "We cannot outbuild she continued. "Their industrial capacity is hundreds of times greater than ours. For every ship we build, they will build 50. If we fight a defensive war, waiting for them to come to us, we will eventually lose. Mathematics does not lie." Secretary General leaned forward. "What are you suggesting, Admiral?" Grace took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been preparing for, the moment that would define humanity's future. "We take the war to them." Murmurs of shock rippled through the chamber. "They expect us to hide behind our defenses, to wait for their next attack while trembling in fear. They do not expect us to attack their territory. They do not believe we would dare, but that is exactly what we must do." Doctor rose to support her. "The Dominion is not as united as they appear. They have conquered 17 species, but none of those species are truly loyal. They serve because they have no choice. If we can show them that they can be beaten, if we can offer them hope of freedom, they will rise against their masters." Grace nodded. "Our plan is called Operation Long March. We will strike at the outer edges of Dominion space, targeting military installations and supply lines. We will free the enslaved species and help them fight back. We will make the fight on 100 fronts instead of one. We will turn their empire against them." A delegate from the European Federation raised his hand. "This is insane. We barely survived one battle, and now you want to invade an empire that spans 200 star systems. We do not have the ships, the soldiers, or the resources." "We have something more important," Grace replied. "We have will. They have forgotten what it means to truly fight. For 3,000 years, they have conquered species that surrendered at the first sign of force. They have no experience fighting an enemy that refuses to give up. We do. Humanity has been fighting and surviving against impossible odds since we crawled out of caves. We will show them what that means." Secretary General studied Grace's face for a long moment. "You truly believe we can win?" "I believe we have no other choice. If we hide, we die slowly. If we fight, we have a chance. I would rather die fighting than live as a slave." The vote was not unanimous this time. Some delegates could not bring themselves to support such a bold, dangerous plan, but the majority agreed. Humanity would not wait for death to come to them. They would bring death to their enemies. 1 year later, the first human fleet crossed into Dominion space. The target was a planet called, home to a species that had been enslaved by them for 300 years. They had once been a proud people, artists and philosophers who dreamed of exploring the stars. Now they were workers, forced to labor in mines and factories, building weapons for their masters. Captain Amy led the Liberation Fleet. The Unconquered had been repaired and upgraded, now even more powerful than before. Around her, 200 human warships waited for her command. "Defense force detected," Carlos reported. 50 ships, mostly light cruisers. They are moving to intercept." Amy studied the tactical display. The defenders were outnumbered 4-1. They did not stand a chance, and they knew it. But they were fighting anyway, because Running meant facing execution by their own commanders. "Signal the fleet," Amy ordered. "Tell them they have one chance to surrender. If they stand down, their crews will be treated as prisoners of war. If they fight, they will die." The response came quickly. A commander appeared his mandibles clicking with defiance. "Humans have no authority in Dominion space. You will withdraw immediately or face destruction." Amy almost smiled, almost. "You have 50 ships, I have 200. Your high commander made the same mistake. Look at how well that turned out for him." The commander hesitated. He had heard the stories, of course. Everyone in the Dominion had heard about the disaster at Earth, about high commanders' humiliating defeat. He had not believed them. He had thought they were exaggerations, propaganda to cover up a minor setback. Looking at the human fleet, he began to wonder if the stories were true. "All ships engage the enemy," Amy ordered. "Show no mercy to those who fight, accept the surrender of those who yield." The battle lasted 20 minutes. 30 ships surrendered, 20 were destroyed. Human losses were minimal. When the fighting was over, Amy took a shuttle down to the surface She wanted to see the people they had freed with her own eyes. There were small creatures, barely reaching human waist height, with large eyes and delicate features. They had gathered in the central square of their largest city, thousands of them, watching the human soldiers with a mixture of fear and wonder. Amy stepped forward and removed her helmet. She wanted them to see her face, to know that she was not so different from them. She said, her words translated by a device on her collar. "The who ruled this world are gone. You are free." For a long moment there was only silence. They had been slaves for so long that they did not know what freedom meant. They had been told that resistance was impossible, that the Dominion would rule forever. Then an old stepped forward. He was bent and frail, his body worn out by centuries of hard labor, but his eyes were bright with something Amy recognized: hope. "Why?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Why did you come? Why did you fight for us?" Amy thought about the question. She thought about Earth, about her home, about the billions of humans who had almost died because an alien empire decided they were not worthy of existence. She thought about the 17 species that had been destroyed, erased from history as if they had never existed. "Because someone had to," she said simply. "Because no one should have to live in chains. Because humanity knows what it feels like to be threatened with extinction, and we refuse to let it happen to anyone else." The old began to cry. Around him, others were crying too, tears of joy and relief and wonder. They had been saved. They had been freed. By creatures from a world they had never heard of, who had no reason to care about their fate but cared anyway. The old one spoke again, his voice stronger now. "We have no word in our language for what you are. We have words for masters and slaves, for conquerors and conquered. But we have no word for those who fight for others, who risk their lives for strangers." He looked at Amy with something like reverence. "We will create a new word. We will call you liberators. We will call you hope. We will call you human." Amy felt tears forming in her own eyes, but she kept her face steady. She was a captain. She had to be strong. "They will send another fleet," she said. "They will try to take back what we have freed. We will need your help to stop them. Will you fight beside us?" The old straightened his bent back as much as he could. "We have been slaves for 300 years. We have forgotten how to fight, but we will learn. Teach us, human. Teach us how to be free." Amy smiled. It was a real smile, warm and proud. "That is exactly what we plan to do." Back on the Unconquered, Amy stood at the viewport and looked down at the first world to be freed, but not the last. There would be more battles, more sacrifices, more losses. The war against the Dominion would take years, maybe decades. Many humans would die. Many aliens would die. The cost would be terrible. But it was worth it. Every life saved, every world freed, every chain broken was worth any price. Carlos joined her at the viewport. "We just received word from command. They are mobilizing a major fleet. 300 ships headed this way. They will arrive in 6 days. Amy nodded. Then we have 6 days to prepare. Contact the other liberation fleets. We are going to need reinforcements. She turned away from the viewport and headed for the bridge. They still think they can win. They still think numbers and force will defeat us. Let us show them why they are wrong. Let us show them what humanity and our allies can do when we fight together. Carlos smiled. Humanity and hope. Humanity and hope, Amy agreed. The war was far from over, but for the first time in 3,000 years, the Dominion was afraid. For the first time, their slaves dared to dream of freedom. For the first time, an enemy refused to surrender. Humanity was just getting started.